Elementary music teacher friend, you love what you do, but you might feel unappreciated and, in fact, unseen some days. You may even feel like you're on a music teacher island and just want to connect with other music teachers who can relate to both your struggles and wins when it comes to teaching elementary music. I get you and understand completely the feelings you're having. That's why each and every week, the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast will provide you with solo and guest episodes that will help you realize you're not alone in your music teaching journey. Throughout each episode, my goal is for you to be able to walk away with actionable steps and ideas to help you feel like you're ready to take on the new week with whatever challenges may be thrown your way. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Peresta, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're at home, in your car, in the shower, or wherever else you're listening, grab your cup of coffee or whatever other beverage is nearby and listen in to the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast.
We're Erin and Dave Tashin, co-hosts of the Mindful Educators Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now.
Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others.
Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
The truth is, a lot of kids, and I'm not going to lump everybody into one category because that's a wrong assumption, but a lot of kids don't associate the music they listen to outside of school with what happens inside of a music classroom. It's music classroom music and music I listen to outside of school. Somehow there is a disconnect there, and this is something that is not anyone's fault. It just happens where they're not really connecting all the concepts they're learning in the music room and able to apply it to songs they're learning outside the music room. There's just a disconnect there. There's music class, music, and then other types of music, according to some of your students. I honestly didn't bring popular music into my classroom when I was in the classroom for the first couple years. And a couple reasons. First of all, I wasn't ever told that this is something I could do. All the years of college prep and student teaching, no one really ever talked about the fact that you could bring popular music into your classroom. And it's a little frustrating because I remember this huge wall kind of feel like it felt like there was this wall between my students and I, where my story about there was no music program in my school for 7 years, but there was this disconnect between the concepts I was teaching, and I'm trying to bring in what I was told to bring in, what I was shown to bring in, what the book said to do. And it wasn't working very well because my students just were not really interested in what I was teaching and what I was saying and what I was trying to do with them. Because they didn't know me, they didn't know what a music class was, to be honest. And I really had to get their buy-in. And so I had to grant myself permission to say, it's okay to bring in music they enjoy, and I can teach the concepts around that. Maybe you're like me and you're wanting to bring popular music into your classroom. You're not really sure how. You're not sure if it is okay to do. But what I wanted to say to you is it's okay if nobody else around you is doing this. It's okay if your cooperating teacher didn't do this. It's okay if while you're going through your college prep program, if no one was ever telling you to do this. The truth of the matter is that this is something that is awesome to do. It's something that trust your gut, and it's something that your students will love. Okay. We've talked about popular music on the podcast before with some different guest episodes and things, but the main thing we've discussed through conversations, solo episodes or conversations I've had with guests, is the fact that relationship building with your students is so important. And so when you're bringing music your students enjoy listening to outside of the music classroom into the music classroom, think about how much relationship building is going to happen because they are so excited that you are becoming or being part of their world, and you're interested in their world. You're interested in what they're interested in. It's just going to get so much buy-in. So let's go ahead and start with my first point, which is, how do you incorporate popular music? This is a question I've actually gotten asked a lot, is how do you do it though? Like, what do you do? Well, what I want you to think about is when you sit down to lesson plan, maybe you focus on the concepts and objectives. What do you do with that? When you sit down and you look at a concept and you say, all right, I need to teach this concept to my students. This is what I want them to know by learning this concept. Then you probably pivot and start looking at what songs or activities activities do I want to use to teach this concept to my students. So when you do that, you're looking at songs to teach the concepts. That's exactly how you would do it when you're using popular songs. If you're working on Steady Beat, for example, you can easily add in any popular song. Students can pat their legs or use rhythm sticks. Any popular song. You are an adult. You have common sense. You know you're not going to bring a song into your classroom that's talking about things that students shouldn't be listening to in your classroom or dropping, a ton of cuss words. But and we're going to talk about ways to find the songs in a minute, but bring in a popular song, something you hear your students singing all the time, something you're familiar with. Start with something you're familiar with. Start with songs from movies the students have just listened to. Oh my gosh. In Encanto, for example, hello, we don't talk about Bruno. Perfect example. Bringing that song into your classroom, students can pat the steady beat to that song. Yes, that's a concept that students should know by now and towards the end of the school year, but they can do any type of concept you're teaching your students. You can bring a popular song into your music room and students can focus on a concept from that song. When your students are working on creative movement, here's another example, along with teaching folk dances and a lot of different creative movement activities you're doing in your classroom, they can learn a popular hip hop dance. Or your students can teach you. Your students honestly make the best teachers. If it's out of your comfort zone and there's a student who is maybe enrolled in hip hop dance classes, or maybe they're not that, but they just love to dance. And they are one of those kids that watches all kinds of, I don't know, let's say kids bop videos. I have elementary age kiddos over here of my own. And so I know they really love to watch those. But let's say they're watching that and they're learning some dance moves, or they're watching music videos to learn dance moves. Have them teach that to you and the rest of the class. They're going to be so excited about that. Oh my gosh, guess what I got to do in music today? I got to teach Miss Peresta and the rest of the class this dance. So think about hip hop dance. It doesn't just, when you're thinking about incorporating movement into your music room, step outside of the box a little bit and bring in other types of movement. Any of the concepts that are taught in the elementary music classroom can easily be taught by using popular music. Just get creative with it. Have fun. And like I said, step out of your comfort zone a little bit. That's part of it. Then one of the other ways to do research, and I shouldn't use the word research, but I don't know what else to call it, is ask your students. I feel like there's a lot of times teachers forget that part. You forget to ask your students, what do you enjoy listening to? Tell me what song you're listening to in your headphones right now. A lot of them like to listen to music before or after school or on the school bus. What are you listening to when you go home? What's on in your car? When you shut your bedroom door, what music are you playing? Ask them. Ask them what musical artists they really like. Why do you connect with that musical artist? What do you like about them? Why do you like their style of music? Ask them. Start jotting down notes based around what your students say. Your students, I'm going to repeat myself, make the best teachers. This is relationship building 101. Asking them questions, having conversations, yes, about music and about things other than music, but asking them what they like, what are they interested in, and having ongoing conversations with them. You're going to really get buy-in, because what's going to happen when you say, tell me what song you really enjoy listening to, and then they tell you, and then the next time they come into music, or maybe not the very next time, but another time they come into music, you're using that music that they suggested to you in your classroom. They're going to be so excited about that. The third thing I want to mention is, why does bringing popular music matter to your students? Your students want to feel seen, valued, and heard. They want to know that you care about them, not just for being a student in your music room, but as a person. When you are showing interest in what they're interested in, I kind of just talked about this, you're going to see a lot more buy-in happening in your music room. When you want buy-in from your students, you're still the teacher. You're still the one in charge. It's still your classroom. But if you're interested in what they're doing and you're interested in what they want to learn about, then when you decide to incorporate the other things you're wanting to do, the things you learned in college and in your student teaching and throughout workshops, and you're wanting to teach those songs, they're going to be interested in it. Not just because of the fact that it's popular music, but because you're just showing an interest. You're not just making it about you. You're not just saying, this is what we're doing no matter what. I'm not changing my plans. I don't care what my students' interests are. I'm not listening to their opinions. It's my classroom. They either come in here and do what I say or not. And there's sometimes mindsets like that. That was my mindset when I first started teaching, because I was told that that's how I was told by a mentor: start really hard, start really strict, and then you can loosen up. And I was like, okay. So I did that. And I was like, this isn't working, because students, yeah, they're listening in here, but they're also like afraid of me. And that wasn't my goal. My goal was to form relationships and to get them excited. So when I say you're going to get buy-in, it's not just because of popular music. When you're even just asking questions, like let's say you're not even at the point where you're bringing popular music into your room yet, but you're just literally saying the question, tell me what you're listening to, tell me what your favorite song is, tell me about your favorite musical artist. They're excited because now they're getting to have a conversation with you. So when you're having conversations and they're ongoing conversations, and then eventually you are bringing in a popular song, start with one, and then you can eventually build it up. However much you decide to bring in is up to you. But the goal here is to form those connections with your students. Popular music means pop, country, hip hop, blues, songs from various cultures, but it also can be songs from your generation and even decades before that. It doesn't just have to be the generation of the 2020s. That's still really weird to say, by the way, 2020s. But you know what I mean? You can bring in popular music from decades ago. Just bring in various styles and genres and musical artists and really get the kiddos to understand, where did rock and roll originate from? How did hip hop start? Have conversations about that with your older kids. They can even do some research projects based around that. While asking students what they like, also have them do interviews with their parents and grandparents about the music they liked listening to as kids. They can interview you. You can even have a whole something you type up, and maybe you put it on your smart board about music you like, music you enjoy listening to, who you liked listening to as a kid, what your favorite songs are, those kind of things, or different songs you like to listen to based around your mood and stuff like that. Have the kiddos get to know you in that way. When students interview their parents or grandparents or a neighbor or any other adult, it can even be another teacher in the school building, it helps them form connections with past generations, but also connecting the dots between the music they like today and the music from even a decade ago and music that they also learn in the music room. It's all these forming connections. Think about like spider webs. The spider web is going a lot of different directions. Well, the same way is with your students. They want to form connections in their brain between the music they're listening to, the music they're learning in the music room, music from decades ago. It should be constantly forming connections between what's going on all the time. And the last thing I want to talk about is getting out of your own head. One of my favorite memories of all times was learning and then teaching the song Get Me Bodied by Beyonce. Okay, if you have not heard that song, I would suggest go listen to it. It's super fun. It's super upbeat, super peppy. And the reason I did this is we had field day, as most of you do. You have field day at the end of the year. My students and I decided, we had already been listening to Beyonce in the classroom, and we wanted to do something fun on the last day of school for the parents coming, and during field day when everybody was assembling together for one last assembly. Nobody knew we were going to do this. During class time, we all learned. And in the show notes, by the way, I linked to a video that shows Beyonce in a school building dancing with some kids. It's really fun. And they're dancing on tables and in a cafeteria setting, but you don't have to do that part. But what we did is we learned this in May. Because that's when my school ended, we learned this dance together little by little, and we put it together. Then I kind of interrupted the assembly and I said, we have something to show you. And everybody looked at us like, what's going on? All the programs, the performances were done at that point. There was like nothing else going on. And all the students stood up, and you should have seen my principal's face. She was like, what's happening? So I had someone in the back I designated to push play, and the music started, and we all did this dance, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. That's just an example of something, a fun way I connected with my students, a memory I know they have never forgotten. And it was totally me getting out of my own head, getting out of my comfort zone, doing something that was totally not Jessica, where I ever thought I would stand up and dance in front of a room full of parents, something other than like putting on a performance, like, but it's something that was so much fun. So for you, getting out of your head might be like the thoughts I talked about at the beginning of the episode. Oh my gosh, but I don't know if I'm allowed to bring popular music in, or I was never told I could do that, or how am I supposed to do this? Or what if some students don't like this, or they feel uncomfortable learning it? Get out of your own head, get out of your own way, and just start somewhere. Start with asking your students, like I said. Start with having those conversations. Start with listening to different types of and styles and genres of music. It's about shifting the focus off of yourself and being embarrassed about what you're going to look like, or what if they don't think I like this music, but what if they can tell it's not something I listen to on a normal basis? It's about getting out of your own head, getting out of your own way, taking the being uncomfortable part out of it and focusing on the students. That is the main focus. That's the focus of everything you do in your music room, is focusing on your students and their needs. Once you keep your students in mind as the main focus, bringing popular music into the music room won't be as uncomfortable a year from now that it is today. So just start somewhere. So in the show notes, look for the link to that blog post, look for the link to the YouTube video I'm going to link to, and also make sure you check out my website, where there are free resources there that you can download. One's about lesson planning, one's about classroom management, and one is for brand new music teachers. If you head to thedomesticmusician.com and click on the homepage, or right when you go to the website, that is the homepage, you will see those free guides right there. Also, if you want to support my work, you can buy me a coffee. The link to that is also in the show notes as well. You guys, thank you so much for listening in. I appreciate your support every week. I love bringing you new episodes every single Wednesday, and I will be back next week with a brand new episode. Well, hey there. Thank you so much for listening into the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. There is an exclusive Facebook group just for listeners of this podcast and any elementary music teacher, called the Elementary Music Teacher Community Facebook group. Come on over and join us there, where we have conversations around the podcast episodes and encourage each other each and every week. And also head to my website, thedomesticmusician.com. I have some free resources there that you can download to help you gain traction in your classroom today, as well as the blog and the membership site and all kinds of other goodies to help you keep going in your music teaching journey. I cannot wait to keep connecting with you and encouraging you and spurring you on in your journey of teaching elementary music. Hang in there, have an amazing week, and I will see you soon.